Hey, what's going on, crypto people? It is your boy, the Crypto Siege, with another day in the life and the crazy life that is the digital asset space. Good morning, guys. Happy, what is this, Saturday? Saturday, yep. Playoffs. Got the NFL playoffs happening this weekend as well, huh? So yeah, guys, I didn't originally want to do this video about this thing that has rehashed now, recently because of DAI's video that I thought it was released around 7 or 8 in the morning, but he said he actually did it Friday night. So I guess he just scheduled it for release this morning or something, uploaded it this morning. But anyway, so he responded to, and it's an odd thing. He responded, I guess, he's had some bent up frustration about the whole thing with Alex Cobb, and he's had some bent up frustration, some disappointment, some sadness, probably even a little bit of anger over this whole thing with Alex Cobb, and it's a very, very, very unfortunate thing. I did a video on it. I titled it, Alex Cobb and Brad Kimes, what the were you thinking? That type of thing. Because, when I saw the things that were kind of going on there between the two of them, I immediately saw the real deal, the real underlying deal. And quite frankly, Mr. B and Digital Asset Investor and Brad Kimes aren't speaking of it, hadn't thought about it. To me, it's a very, very obvious thing. And by the way, just in case, I've been blessed to have been on the planet longer than both of those guys, and probably even longer than all three of those guys. And so, it's very, very, it's very, very obvious to me what the real deal is. And it's unfortunate. Like, for me, I always call this thing that's going on, that took place, I've always called it the enemy. It's the enemy, right? It's the enemy, right? And my mentor used to say to me, CJ, sometimes the enemy is the inner me, right? But for me, it's the enemy. And I've always likened the enemy to things like competition, to things like comparison. I liken the enemy to things like judgment, condemnation, right? Condemning and judging, right? I liken the enemy to jealousy, right? I liken the enemy to envy, right? And so for me, from the beginning, from the onset, I realized that was ultimately what this whole thing with Alex Cobb was about. Ultimately, that's what it was about. And I'm surprised that they missed it. The guys who have been around and been on the planet for a significantly longer time than, like, how do you ride a bike like in the middle of a road with cars on it, in the middle of the road? But anyway, missed it, like really, really missed it. And these three guys are smart guys. They seem like really nice guys. I haven't met any of them. Brad Kimes has always been kind in terms of shouting out my channel, and we talked on the phone. I called one time, called into the show, and it's amazing. I don't know how it was missed. And the reason why I say that is because if you understand ultimately where it's really coming from, you would take a more empathetic stance, because you understand where it's really coming from. It's really coming from the enemy, in my opinion. But I'm listening to DII this morning, and man, I mean, dude, wow, like the dude was hurt. Like, he was like literally, really, really hurt by it, and I get that to an extent. But ultimately, because once that video was out that Alex did, I mean, just the backlash behind it was crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. Just really separated the community. Now you get camps now within camps, right? You get the Alex Cobb camp and the Brad Kimes camp and the DII camp instead of just a whole XRP community. And that for me was the really, really unfortunate part. You know what I mean? So there's two things for me. Number one, I remember saying this to Miss Crypto Siege as well. I said until they take ownership of their own misstep and how they promoted that channel, Alex wasn't going to do any kind of what's the word, apology or whatever, because to me, the misstep in the promoting of that group caused Alex to go in that direction. To me, when you use words like insider and exclusive and you're throwing in swell, little tidbits of swell, that can get a young person's brain, like you know how when you get a thought, you get this thing in your brain and you get it in there, you can't go left or right from it. Your initial thought is what it is maybe even a little bit emotional, and you just run with that. And I know, and I say this because I'm talking about, for me, a young person. When you've been around on the planet for a while, you understand that can happen, and you take a second or two or 5 minutes or an hour to kind of gather yourself and make sure that you're not reacting from an emotional standpoint. Make sure you're not reacting emotionally. But a young guy's not going to do that. And for what I'm publicly hearing, they're asking him to do that. They're asking him to act as though he's been on the planet for 4 or 5 decades when he hasn't been. Where he hasn't been able to kind of catch himself in that really, really emotional thing that is spun off of the enemy. Okay, let's say, for example, the enemy of jealousy, the enemy of envy, right? And the enemy has got a hold of him, and he's reacting emotionally based upon the misstep of the promotion. Does it make it right? It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. But you have to go back to the original thing and assess and say publicly, I probably could have done this differently. Because even DAI this morning, he's saying, I don't understand where, probably I missed it, but I don't understand where they're kind of getting, what did he say? This swell information being withheld or something along those lines, right? Maybe it was a word or something I missed, I think he said. I just wondered if anybody took the time to go back and listen to that promotion. Because when I watched it, and again, I joined it the second after the stream was over, because I didn't want to try and join it while the promoting stream was going on. I joined it because I saw the value that could be gained from it, for me personally, right? But when looking at it, I thought I'm seeing, when I'm looking on the site, I'm seeing exclusive. I'm seeing what's insider on the site, I could easily see how they thought there was some stuff that they had gotten from Swell that they were going to share only in the Patreon. I could see how someone could go there based upon the promotion of that insider thing and words like insiders and exclusive. I could see someone going there. And it wasn't until after Alex did his thing that it was cleared up. It was clarified. It was made more clear. It wasn't until after that. Now, is DAI and Mr. B and Brad Kimes, were they intentionally trying to mislead someone? Were they intentionally trying to harm someone or the community? I mean, absolutely not. That's insanity to think that. It's insanity to think that. They were not. Absolutely not trying to do that. But in fact, in that promotion, it was a misstep. It was, I said on that original video, I called it a fail, right? And the reason why I said that, because the second you get online, podcasts, videos where you don't show your face, doesn't matter. The second you get on a YouTube or a Periscope or a IGTV, the second you do that, you become a marketer. The second you do it, whether you like it or not, whether you want to be a marketer or not, whether you're asking for money in exchange for something or not, you become a marketer. The second. And when you do that, there's a responsibility in your marketing. That's on you. That is ultimately on you. Ultimately on me, ultimately on Alex Cobb, ultimately on Jungle Inc., ultimately on Crypto Eddie, ultimately. That's just the way it is. Just like, you know, these sports people say, I don't want to be someone's, I don't want to be someone's hero, and I don't want to be your role models. That's it. I'm not a role model. I don't want to be. Of course you are. Of course you are. Whether you want to be that way or not. You may not want to be, but you are. A good one or a bad one, you are. Right? And that's the same thing, too, with that promotion, with anything once you get online. You know? So, certainly DAI, Mr. B, and DAI, Mr. B, and Brad Kimes did not want to mislead anybody. Absolutely not. They certainly didn't want to intentionally withhold. That would just not go over well, right? Intentionally withholding stuff. So, and certainly they did not want to do that. But what I'm saying is, if you don't get that a young dude could take that promotion and get it in his brain, well, for whatever reason he got it in his brain, he did. And it could be words like exclusive, it could be words like insider, it could be, you know, I think maybe something about Swell, some pictures from Swell or whatever, something. But what I'm saying is, I could see how Alex could go there emotionally. I could see how Alex could go there emotionally. And the hype and kind of from the promotion and the misstep and that promotion, you combine those two together, and I could see how you can get there. Again, I could see that from a young dude. From a young dude, which Alex is, a young dude. So please don't try to say he's a grown man. Come on. 19, a grown man? I don't think so. I don't think so. And again, I've been on the planet longer than the both of those guys, and probably even longer than Mr. B. So I'm not buying a grown man when it comes to Alex Cobb. I can say an adult. But when you've only been on the planet for a few years, there's a lot of learning that you still got to do. There's a lot of learning to still be had, right? There's a lot of learning to be had still, right? I mean, come on. 19. So I could see how he could get there emotionally. And in my humble opinion, it was because of that misstep and that promotion that got him there. Now, the beneath all of that, in my opinion, is the enemy. To me, I don't know Alex Cobb, but to me, that's what it felt like. It felt like jealousy. It felt like envy. That's what it felt like. And what I mean by that is just take a second. You know, I remember I was telling a friend from the channel this the other day, and I remember I told him we have a business page, and we had built it on Facebook, and we had built it up to like 12,000 before I had this kind of realization. Like 12,000 people, very, very quick, very, very fast, right? In our particular space that we operate in. And I remember I was telling him that I remember catching myself looking at other pages, checking their numbers, you know, looking at my numbers in terms of followers or whatever, checking the likes, you know, getting caught up in that, getting caught up in the number of followers, getting caught up in the number of likes, getting caught up in the number of comments or lack thereof, which is even worse. Getting caught up in that. And I remember telling him that I told Ms. Crypto Seeds, you know, I think we need to back off a little bit from this page and just kind of, you know, because she was kind of doing it as well, and kind of back up from a little while, right? Getting caught up in that. Right? And so, and I've seen other YouTubers get caught up in subscriber counts, get caught up in number of views on the videos of the channel, right? And what happens is the enemy gets a hold of you, right? The enemy of competition instead of creativity. The enemy of jealousy instead of mad respect. The enemy of envy instead of creativity. Right? And so that to me is what that felt like. It felt like that was the underlying thing. Now for me, you know, for someone who's been on the planet for a while, and you could kind of experience that, have experienced something like a move that Alex made, you know, you can experience that or relate to that, I should say, relate to that. It, you know, look, when you're dealing with a young person, and you're dealing with a young person online in front of the camera, attacks aren't going to work. You know, it's not going to work. You know, Alex, I would really appreciate it. Look, I get it. I totally understand you're emotional right now and you're not kind of thinking clearly. You know, let's talk online. Let's talk offline. You know, look, take your time. You know, and let's talk offline. You know, and leave it at that. But the second you go to attacking, you know, and then it's going to be harder for a young person who would, especially a young person who might not be getting some guidance. That's another thing, from a parent in the home, right? You get people like DAI who get that. They get that parent and that guidance, right? You can tell he's got that knocked down, right? He's very much there for his kids. He's very much there for his sons, right? You can tell that he's very much there and guiding, right? You could tell, right? That's a good father, right? But if it's not there, with a young person, then it's not there with a young person. You know what I mean? And not all young people are the same. Not all young people have that guidance. You know, it's very obvious to me way before this thing that Aiden Trading had that guidance. Very obvious. And it wasn't until I didn't discover even actually until afterwards that, you know, I learned about who his dad was. I learned that after I actually had met Aiden, and Aiden online, obviously, and was very kind to the channel, and, you know, subscribed right away. It just, you could tell, good kid, right? Good young kid, good, you know, he had some people there guiding him through some stuff, right? Through some tough things, right? And doesn't I don't know, but it doesn't feel like that. Again, I don't know, but it doesn't feel like that with Alex. Like, it really doesn't. Anyway, I've been talking long enough. It doesn't, you know. So, you know, I'm feeling his pain. I'm really feeling DAI's pain, hurt by it. I just think that the expectations from a young dude, the expectations are they're just a little, I don't know, over the top, I think. Like, it literally could take years. Literally can take years. And I always, you know, I've always said this, you know, there's, you know, you can be right or you can be rich, right? And what I mean by that is not rich in money, but rich in relationships and rich in friendships, right? Rich in moments. And obviously, DAI and Brad are right? But your reactions to how you've been wrong can take away that shot at being rich in a thing. Because in a relationship, for example, right? And so, you know, for me, again, I saw immediately it was the enemy, right? It was the enemy. Because this has happened in the community before, where the enemy of jealousy and envy has, you know, swarmed all over a channel and or the creator of that channel. A couple of times, or two different channels, I should say, where the enemy of jealousy and the enemy of envy and the enemy of competition has gotten the best of them. And this has happened in the XRP community. So, you know, that's why I saw it as. And so I'm hoping, you know, for me, the message would be: give this young dude some time. He's not built the same way. He hasn't had the opportunity to build himself up the same way as someone who's been on the planet for 4+ decades. Just hasn't had the experiences. He hasn't had life happen to him where he can learn from stuff. He hasn't had that to respond in the same way when he's wrong as someone who's been on the planet for 4 decades and realizes he's wrong will respond. He's not going to respond the same way. And I've raised 3 kids, so, right? So I raised a 30-something-plus-year-old daughter and 20-something-year-old son, and have a teenager in my home, right? So I know that he's not going to respond. Alex Cobb is not going to respond the same way as a 40-year-old plus man. So I would say ultimately just give him some time. And I get that you're hurt. I get that you're hurt, absolutely. And I get that you had a friendship, absolutely. But you had a friendship with a young guy. With a young guy, right? And so you can't say, well, look what Aiden Trading did. Okay. Aiden Trading probably got a little bit more guidance going on in his life, right? And as for someone who has raised kids, you should probably recognize that. He's probably got a little bit, right? That guidance is probably a little bit more hands-on, right? Right? You know, that's what it feels like to me. And I know it's pops, you know, online, I know it's pop, right? We've communicated, right? So that's kind of the thing that I was saying. So it's funny because like I was feeling his pain. I was feeling DII's pain, you know. And here's a guy who's just giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving to this community, right? But just understand that the enemy is tricky, right? I'm a God-fearing dude, right? The enemy is very, very tricky, very, very tricky, dude. And one of the greatest things that the enemy has ever pulled off was convincing us that he doesn't exist, and convincing us that the person on the other side of a text message, on the other side of a phone call, on the other end of a YouTube channel, on the other side of a camera is the enemy. That's his greatest gift, to convince you and I and get us warring with one another. That's one of his greatest talents. So I hope you kind of get that, and just kind of give it. I would say, you know, if I had a chance to talk to DAI, and I don't know DAI, but if I had a chance to talk to him, I would say just give that young dude some time. Right? Don't attack him. That's not going to work. Give that young dude some time. And quite honestly, I believe Alice is going to get there. It's going to take some time, right? To kind of, right? It'll take some time. Right? Aiden Trading did his thing, right? Man, what a good young dude that is right there. And the Bearable Bull did his thing, right? In his own way, right? You just got to give people time. Got to give, especially a young dude, like. But to expect him to act and behave the same way that you would act and behave when you realize that you're wrong, it's just not. It's really not reasonable to expect that at all. Don't care about how long he's had a channel. What does that matter? You know, we're talking about a life situation here, right? Realizing that you made an error, realizing that you made a mistake, realize you said things that you should not have said, and now taking responsibility and owning up for that, and then try to do something publicly. It's going to take some time. It'll take some time. So anyway, guys, listen, I'm going to wrap this video up like I do all my videos, and remind you of this, and that is that old money doesn't want you to win. They don't want us to win. They would rather us remain a cog in their perpetual wheel of trading our time for dollars. They don't want us to play in the same playground that they play in, where we allow our money to work for us. This is our chance to win, guys. The digital asset space is our chance to win. We are in the midst of the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of man. Are you participating, or are you standing on the sidelines? Here's what I do know. That the battle for you has already been fought, and the victory is yours. Go get it. I'll talk to you soon, guys. See ya. Bye.